Hello, my name is Jonathan Lead. I'm Technical Director at CACI, and welcome to our series of videos and interviewing experts in the industry to talk about the role of data and the customer data layer and the importance of it to marketing, insight and analytics. Today, I'm joined by Ruffle and Elliott from the RAC, and we're going to have a conversation about the role of data analytics and the integration layer within the RAC. Elliott, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having us.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your role, what you do, and the importance of data to you and your role?
Yeah, so in terms of the RAC, I've been there for sort of 13 years and had a few different roles across that time. So starting off focusing purely on marketing technology and making sure the campaign team have the data and the tools to build the selections and send out the marketing we need. But over the years, I've taken on wider responsibilities, including analytics, establishing a data science team, and building out kind of MI teams as well to kind of provide management information as well.
Excellent, thank you. And Elliott?
Yeah, so a little bit less than Ian. 3 years at the RAC. My role is Director of Engineering, so I look after broadly all the software and the core data engineering we do to build certified data products and expose them internally. So I work hand in hand with Ian's team, making sure that all the ingestion and modeling of our critical data sets is fulfilling the requirements of what we need internally. So my day-to-day is spent sort of working with the team, working on what technology we need to build to get ahead of the next 6 months or years worth of requirements that the business will have, building the software, building the teams around that, and making sure we're using the right technology to achieve those goals.
Fantastic, thank you. And I think the reason it's really, really good to have both of you here today is, of course, Elliott, from a provisioning perspective, you sort of own the data within the RAC, you're owning the platforms to deliver data to the consumer, essentially, for Ian to need the data for what he does with it on his day-to-day role. Ian, to you, it'd be good to understand a bit more about what sort of accessible customer data means to you. How have your requirements of data changed over the last sort of 24 months?
Oh yeah, over 24 months, the data's always been important. We are, significant consumers of data as a department. Analysts have always needed access, but in the last 24 months, and particularly over the last sort of slightly longer period, maybe 5 years, we've been using Snowflake and getting much greater availability to accessible data, and that's been quite significant for a lot of what we've done. Thinking about some of our demand forecasting, trying to predict bad roadside experiences. Those are the kinds of things that need reliable, robust data. But if you're trying to improve customer experience at the roadside, you need to be making decisions really quickly. And some of the modeling that we've been able to build out has only been possible because of that improved accessibility to data. And the last 2 years has really seen that open up capabilities that would never have been there before. It's very noticeable improvements in that space.
And fundamentally, like the last couple of years, as Ian said, the transition has been mad from just delivering data for the sake of other data-hungry people within the organisation to completely transform to the way that we really need to provide data to operational systems that are using it in real time, to non-sort of traditionally data literate stakeholders of exposure to dashboards and things that they want in real time, but also entwining data with traditional product delivery within the business. So when we roll out new functionality and new integrations with new partners, the demand on having the data in our warehouse within Snowflake as closely aligned to that new operational implementation is so it's needed to be in real time as much as possible. So there's a complete blurred line now between sort of where data was previously used in the organization to where it is now, which is every inch. We have stakeholders requesting data to be available in Snowflake who are in operational teams dealing with priority queues for our customers out in the road. They feel data and where it's used far more than they did sort of 3-4 years ago, where they just said, we need a solution to help sort of deal with this problem. Now it's like, we know this Snowflake thing does something. We need a lot more in there because of this reason. And that shortens all the requirements loops that previously bogged down teams for delivery, and it's a lot more accessible for people to see where they need the data now, which is, a huge difference.
That's great. Yeah. So of course, Ian, you articulated well the increased demand for data, and not just in your area. And obviously, Elliott, you talk about that being much broader across the business, a greater demand for more accessible data for a much broader set of use cases. You've name checked Snowflake as part of your tech stack. It'd be good to understand a little bit more from Elliott, from your perspective, as to the role that you've been on from implementing Snowflake. You talked about your data products. Good to understand a bit more about those, how you've exposed those to Snowflake, and what you've done with that data.
Yeah, so we started our Snowflake journey, I think, perhaps on a little bit of the wrong foot. We started, I think, trying to address key migrational-related problems of replacing reporting, replacing dashboarding, etc. And I think the main problem with that approach initially was that it was never directly pulling in all the stakeholders that really had a much greater desires on what data could do for them. So, our journey with Snowflake has matured such that it's now more geared around delivering the data into the exact operational use cases we need for it. Most notably for us, we're particularly proud of our project with our case management software that we built in-house to bring data products closer to our agents, to have better conversations with customers, to understand the history of the breakdown far more granularly, but also give those agents real confidence that what they're seeing is a source of truth. And actually gearing up what we did for Snowflake around those use cases helped drive a lot more of the right type of data to model in Snowflake first, which then has had huge amounts of benefit on modeling in the rest of the business. So, it's been on a huge journey for us, but, ultimately, we talk about delivery of certified data products in Snowflake, and those are agreed to, fully automated, as you'd imagine, very well built software products, all orchestrated with the range of tooling that surrounds Snowflake to guarantee the delivery of the data, but the modeling and the definitions of that, such that downstream consumers can use that data freely. And when I talk about downstream consumers, that's everything from an API that one of our products may be using, the mobile app. It could be Ian and his team on building some really great insight that's going out. It could be to our data science team, building out forecasting, looking at weather data and traffic patterns, etc. And all of those use cases plus a load more. So our certified data products is what we talk about as the language for what is the robust, trusted product, which ultimately is a table, a Snowflake table database, that is used and referenced for all those use cases.
It really gives us a single version of the truth as well. If you roll back the clock, we used to be in a situation where someone would go to IT and say, can you tell us how many customers we've got? And then they'd come and ask me, and they'd go and ask finance. And we'd all have our separate disparate systems, and you'd all come back with slightly different answers. And that is quickly becoming a significant thing of the past, which just makes decisions much quicker and more efficient, because it's, okay, that's the fact. We can make a decision on that rather than this uncertainty, which is the world that data systems used to provide.
The challenge is that because the traditional ways of working were quite long and almost laborious, it made you really refine and plan exactly what you wanted to do, right? And that was the benefit to that. Like everyone, you almost had to have hyper focus on that because it took a long time, etc. The challenge now is everything is linked to the development of a data product across every inch of the organization. So managing all of that and making sure that we still focus on the right things is a very constant challenge.
So you're suggesting that maybe the more free proliferation of data is making people make poorer choices in their planning?
It's the same with cloud infrastructure when that popped up, right? Solutions became far cheaper to implement for organizations. It was much easier to add new services, new integrations at a very cheap cost. And that therefore naturally means everyone's a bit more liberal with their decision making on solutions. The same is exactly true with data. But you still need to make sure that the teams owning the products themselves have all the robust ecosystem around them to make sure that ultimately when they are widely consumed, they are still trusted, well versioned, and they're not going to break, basically. So it is difficult.
I mean, certainly I think the barrier for entry for data access is being reduced. I think just the management overhead of a lot of infrastructure now has been reduced so much that it's much easier for people to build and deliver solutions, and also potentially deliver them maybe slightly incorrectly. So I think it's good that also you talk about the guardrails and governance there, but we're not going to dive into that loads today. You've spoken about a really, really good story within RAC with your certified data products, getting data closer to the end users and applications that use them. I talk a lot about sort of the customer data layer or the data layer, which is moving data away from being something which is sort of stored and managed and mastered and held away, being something which is much more front-facing to give greater access data to applications and customers and end users, and making that data far more accessible. Ian, it'd be good to understand from your perspective the work that Elliott and his team has done. What has that enabled you to do now that you weren't able to do, let's say, sort of 3-4 years ago?
A lot of our data historically has been quite siloed, quite difficult to pull together and have a cohesive story on. Some of the certified data products as well that Elliott's built out have brought together data sets from disparate source systems. So we end up with a world now where, that simple question of how many customers have you got, our breakdown customers, irrespective of the nature of that customer, is all in one place. So the analysts who are looking and trawling through the data, trying to answer questions, looking at trends, have a single place to go. It's really revolutionized that approach to analytics because you've got a single trustworthy place to be starting. And the historical kind of trends around the job of an analyst being 60-70% upfront cleaning data has been, it's not decimated, it's not completely gone, but it's definitely reducing. And therefore, the value that those kind of roles can give to an organization can only increase because they can spend more time on optimizing, making recommendations, and helping inform better decisioning for the business. And you see that reflected across the CRM and campaigns world as well, where a quicker access to more data just means you can drive more efficient marketing. The marketing basics of sending the right message at the right time to the right person with the right offer is much easier than it ever used to be. The technology marketplace really helps to facilitate getting that out as well. But it's all built off that version of truth.
So we've spoken a little bit about Snowflake. I don't want to talk just about Snowflake, but let's just think about, we're hot off the back of the Snowflake World Tour, and there were some really interesting conversation developments and came out of that. One of them was actually released before the World Tour. Snowflake talking about the open semantic interchange capability, which means that Snowflake is having much greater native integrations to other platforms. Thinking about that, thinking around the role of AI, agentic AI, and just the ability that Snowflake has with other platforms to have greater connectivity. I would be interested here from you, Elliott. It's never stops.
No.
The work that you have done. Where next? Where next for you? Where do you want to take this next?
I think maybe people will sympathise with this. I think almost on a daily basis feel somewhat paralysed by the wealth of options available in all the data products and the companies that we work with on providing the technology stack across the RAC. It's a daily challenge to keep up and try and align a tech investment, basically, the direction of which, with the right tools and choices there. It's very difficult. Everything is being released on a daily basis with Snowflake and all the other tools we use. But fundamentally, it is rapidly improving our own data engineers and software engineers' ability to release technology quicker. Basically, that's it's definitely coming in a bow wave, that stuff now, which is impressive. What is difficult is trying to hone down on exactly where we want to spend our most amount of time. New layers that introduce new semantic layers can challenge where we traditionally thought, right, okay, we're going to build that in end presentation reporting or whatever it may be. It is difficult to keep track of. And I would say the other challenge to all of it is to stakeholders in the organization. It can often look like you're flip-flopping around where you want to spend time and invest in technology because it's quite abstract where all the technologies exist. And you think, okay, now Snowflake are doing this Cortex thing. Okay, right, but we were previously doing that in Azure. with all that ecosystem. So do we move all this now? And like, no, we can just sort of trial this here. And the lines become extremely blurred. And a real challenge, definitely I have, is making sure we are succinct with where we are trialing versus betting on some of the new technology that comes out, specifically in the AI space.
Yeah, there's a real balance to be had, probably now more than ever.
Yeah.
Because I think I was certainly an advocate of moving away from these monolith environments to have a good bespoke, best of breed, composable composite stack. When you have a scenario which is such as Snowflake, where you have AI models, Cortex, Agentic in their LLM suites, Arctic, the temptation is to deploy everything locally. Yeah. And you've got to strike that balance between keeping your tech stack really quite minimalist, easy to maintain, whilst also not moving back into this trap of having a monolith sort of vendor lock-in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a difficult balance to have.
Yeah, it goes back to the point earlier about, it's become cheaper to roll out pretty mature solutions because of all the technology that's coming out in the Snowflake ecosystem and other bits like that. And our jobs is to make sure that in 6 months' time or a year's time, that solution still stands the test of time and is still working and people trust it still, and that's a hard thing to make sure we get right.
It's a very hard.
The new shiny is very attractive. So we've got to make sure that we continue to make sure it's supported. Otherwise, we're going to have a very bad reputation quite quickly of lots of solutions that then start to, lose ownership in the organization and other bits like that, which is difficult.
I'm going to have to ask you a very annoying question. I do apologize about this, but it's AI. We're going to talk about AI. And as we think about the accessibility of AI, LLMs, AI models, etc., is becoming much easier now. Yeah. The barrier for entry on that is diminished so much. How do you see the use of AI within your teams to deliver better insight, better marketing? How do you see that?
I think, particularly within that marketing arena, it's going to revolutionize ways of working. The coming back to what I said earlier around the basic marketing principles of the right message to the right customer at the right time. Historically, coming up with the versions of content, personalizing the right messages, getting to that right granularity of segmentation, being able to measure results was something you could only do for a certain number of pots of data to do it efficiently. AI really unlocks a level of personalization that could only ever have been dreamt of before. It does that in a way that isn't meaning you've got to scale up the size of your team significantly to deliver all this content. Building multiple selections that are going to be self-monitored, optimize segments between them. Making the right choices of technology is really important, but if you've got that in place, it will, I think, more so for us in terms of where we are as an organization. I think we've got a lot of our spine in Snowflake well organized now. I think the next 9 months, 12 months, we're updating a lot of our front-end marketing technology to leverage what AI can do for us. I think that'll be quite a big transformation for us over the next 24 months in our ways of working to be more efficient. And actually, I think the end result of that will be good for the customers. I think we'll be able to deliver a better customer experience that's more relevant, more timely, more personalised.
I'm taking a bit of a step back. As I referenced Snowflake World Tour a few minutes ago. You delivered a talk at Snowflake World Tour talking about some of the excellent work that you have done with the RAC with regards to sort of predicting, break down a cover and where you need to put the bands. It'd be good if you could just give a very, very quick synopsis, if you like, of the talk you gave and help to explain the role of data within that, data accessibility, and how critical the Snowflake platform in general, the data platform was for that.
Yeah, I mean, the basis of what we implemented with that forecasting model came from a point where we didn't really have the right resource to be able to deliver a cutting edge forecasting model at all. So the initiation was, what resource do we need, and getting the right people in. I think as leaders in an organization, there's only so much that Elliott and I could do. But if you can get the right people on board in your teams who've got the right skill and feel empowered to be making recommendations and driving and making decisions, then that's the most fundamental thing to leading these kinds of change. And I initially established a data science team about 2.5 years ago now, and the first main use case was that forecasting one you talked about. And I lent on those carefully selected individuals to make those recommendations as to how to do it. And listening and guiding and steering those individuals is fundamental. There's a nuance to managing technical people. It'll be the same in Elliott's world as to mine, that they often will like finding technical solutions, but they don't necessarily always align back to a business problem. And that's very much our role in leading that. And with that forecasting, there was a very clear business problem. We had a very legacy solution. There were lots of macro factors with post-COVID and changes to the way that people were using their vehicles, and vehicle supply was changing. So there was a huge sway in reason for us to be doing this that gave us a very clear focus. And it just so happened that our data ecosystem was already in an accessible place, and it gave us a real significant opportunity to start using these new technologies available to us. And we might have done it differently if we started now with further evolutions natively available in Snowflake and so forth. But actually what we did was quite transformational, and something that I think as an organisation we're very proud of.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's an excellent use case. It's a brilliant use of technology, and it really sort of demonstrates some clear sort of business outcomes, which is excellent. So I talk a lot about focusing on the outcomes, what you're trying to deliver for the business, and working back from that, and focusing a data and analytics strategy around that. And you definitely demonstrated that there. Elliott, it'd be good to understand from you. There's been a lot of changes technology-wise, and I think there's been a significant growth over the last sort of 2-3 years in general, but especially within RAC. And if I do say so, I think the reason you're here is you are almost at the pinnacle of what you can do with data analytics in a market insight sense. But I would say we don't stand still. So it'd be good to understand from you what you'd be hoping to see from technology providers over the next sort of 18 months, 2 years. What are you hoping they can give you and deliver to you to make your life easier?
That's a great wish list, and I hope that I could get all of this ironed out and agreed. I mean, I'd really love everything to actually broadly settle. So really get good, clear lines of demarcation as to what technology is going to sit in which cloud provider and which one we're going to bet on, right? So
good luck.
So almost like some ability to just be more confident that we're betting on the right things. Ultimately, what we want to put in Snowflake, what we want to keep within Azure. Be really clear on the technical choices internally. That would be the main thing that would be good to sort of settle on. Until that point, ultimately, I want to ensure that all of the leading AI technology that we're currently using across Snowflake within Azure is accessible on the data products that we're already exposing to the organization. As Ian mentioned, bringing data to agents and giving more of that well-rounded customer view is extremely important. But there's a bunch of other insight around, call sentiment analysis and all these other data points that we've now got accessible to us. We need to make sure all of those are exposed on the data products that we're bringing out to the rest of the organization. It's got to keep up the same pace, basically. So, we have to make sure that whatever tools and technologies we use at the moment, we are making sure that we keep up with that and keep them sort of nicely annotated onto the certified data products we've already got, so that people feel it and understand where it can be used.
Excellent. I mean, Ian, same question to you, really. I think, what are you hoping as an end user, a consumer of data? What are you hoping for technology to give to you to make your job easier or better?
It is a difficult question. I think technology is moving at pace. Keeping your staff up to speed with that is a challenge. So I do think what Elliott said in terms of is there a plateau? Is there a point where you can avoid that kind of trying to keep abreast and a pace and feeling like you've got to be constantly changing to a point where you can say, actually, it's easier to do our jobs and be delivering value? I feel like the last 2 years, adopting some of these things, and even the way we did that forecasting model, there would be things we might do different now because things have changed, things move at pace, you need to be forever learning. Snowflake, I think, has made accessing some of these technologies for our analysts much easier. Some of the software changes that we're making with our front-end marketing tech will be exposing, lighter weight, but kind of predictive capabilities to the campaign team when they're building a selection. So the ability to make wiser decisions more easily with a lower footprint in terms of resource is kind of where I think the future is going to be going. It will be less about working hard, but more about working smarter. So the resource, we can probably do so much more with the same level of resource, delivering a better quality outcome more easily. So I think there probably does at some point need to be a bit of a plateau of what's practical in terms of technical sophistication for that kind of use case.
My hope and aspiration is that it's actually less on the sort of industry supplying new technology and other bits like that. It's more actually that we're able to catch up and use those credits we've earned from the new technology that's exposed to our engineers within the team building everything, so that actually the BAU and the drumbeat of the organization becomes far more easier to do. Like that's really well orientated, easier for them to do, so that as Ian mentioned before, the teams can focus on thinking about problems that no one is currently thinking about. They have more creative license to go, actually, we need to build a product that centers around this, because if we're going to do this in 9 months' time, we're definitely going to need that now. And it allows them to get on the front foot. No amount of strategic planning from myself, Ian, or others is going to roadmap everything that we need for the future, really to like a ticket by ticket item with our teams. What we need is for them to use the tools to be less in the weeds of what they need to do on a day-to-day, so that they are freer to think about the next level of technology we need to adopt. So unfortunately, it's less about what Snowflake and others can provide. There's a real rich set of tooling that's already there. It's more about helping the existing teams use that to deleverage themselves from the BAU and get thinking about the next thing.
I think technology is moving on, and a lot of the way that the business operates is that finance or someone in a commercial role will spot there's some trading metric that's gone off. And then there'll be a big panic, what's caused this, an investigation into it, and then you'll work out that actually something happened maybe 3 months ago. But we didn't really spot it until it got to a month end and someone quoted a figure, and then you start looking at it. I do think the roles and responsibilities of people will be more around actually let the tool, let the tech look at the trends and tell you need to be looking at this. So we won't be 3 months post the problem. You'll be able to respond and react quicker, and therefore the change becomes a different process. You're able to kind of forever be optimizing, and actually hopefully as that beds down as a slightly new way of working, does it feel a bit less hectic? Does it feel a bit more like you've got breathing space? Does it feel a bit more like there's a plan that we're able to stick to and orientate around, where sometimes it's a bit like a rolling ocean at times of jumping from one thing to another, and I hope technology will smooth that curve.
Yeah, I think you guys have articulated this really, really well. The theme of this is the customer data layer or the data layer. You've talked at great length about the work you put in to build that foundation through your certified data products to make this data more accessible. And I hear loud and clear you're saying now that you built this foundation, you made this data accessible. Actually, now it's more for the business to think about how they can utilize that more effectively to solve better business challenges rather than to do sort of more engineering.
Yeah, technology has a very good track record of inspiring people to just constantly bang on about the next thing, when it was not very good at saying, right, we've got enough of the big bets done here. Let's really narrow down exactly what we need to do. Make sure everyone has got all the right tooling internally to speed up. Yeah,
I mean, since the dawn of data, really, everyone's wanted to get better access to better, cleaner, consolidated data, and this is where we are now. You've made that reality with RAC, and you're doing some great work with it. I'm going to sort of finish on just one final point, if I may. Hopefully, this will be an easy one. No gotchas. I think probably from both of you, the journey been on the last 18 months. I think we've heard today it's been quite successful, very successful. What are you most proud of, do you think, in what you've delivered?
Well, can I steal first, Ian? I think for it is solely people-based from me. So two things. So first and foremost, it's great to be able to see data engineers at the coalface of bringing real value into the organisation. So long they've been abstracted behind delivery upon delivery upon delivery that's ultimately led to a business outcome. And tools like Snowflake and all of the cloud infrastructure around that means their delivery is tied directly into the outcome that's doing, whether it's building data that goes straight into an API, straight into a contact center application, they can see it end to end. And it's really rewarding to see those guys feel for once the genuine impact they've had in real time in the organization versus being abstracted behind it for so long. And that is so empowering from a team perspective, because that drives people's wants and ambitions to improve things that much more. It's had such a massive impact, and very proud of it.
I love that. I love that. Because so I was, my 20-year career as a data engineer, believe it or not, you were abstracted, and no one really knew what you were doing. And from delivering something to actually being used, there are so many barriers to go through. Now, data engineers are can have such a direct and tangible input into the business and the outcomes they're driving. It's great to hear that.
Yeah,
Ian,
I got to echo that. I think people, I'm not going to sit here and say actually there's one particular project that stands out that I'm proud of, because the thing I'm most proud of is the people that are working alongside, and the organisation's changed significantly. And in what's described as Elliott's era, the working.
I'm not comfortable.
I like that.
The working relationships,
Yeah.
I think, between different departments, I think powered by technology and the ever-changing needs and shape of the marketplace, means actually, there aren't the barriers that maybe there or perceived to be in the past. And I think actually there's a much more collaborative feel between cross-department working than where we were in the past. But, what am I proud of? The way that my team are empowered, the way that they are interested and excited about pushing and using these new technology, the new data products. That's really invigorating to see and be involved in, and actually seeing problems being solved, just standing back at a distance. I mean, my background's not wildly different to yours, as being involved in data engineering and building solutions and being hands-on. And these last few years have seen me really transitioning into a leader and sort of standing back and watching it happen. And I think that's, I'm in a position now, I'm sitting and saying, I'm really proud of the team that we have. And that's not, exclusively my team. I think the collaboration of, it's the people that make the RAC.
It's a lovely feeling, isn't it? When you bring people in the business and you can lead them, nurture them, and just watch them deliver incredible things. It's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
Thank you. We've heard today from Elliott and Ian from the RAC talk about the wonderful work that they've done, making data more accessible, consolidating that data, and driving some real business change through it. So thank you for them, and I hope you enjoyed that.